Okay, so I've started recording. Right, so I may be adding people as we go along. So there might be a few pings, but great that so many of you could make it this evening. Thanks so much for coming. It's lovely to see some familiar faces, but also some new faces, people that I haven't met along the last few months, and nearly a year actually since we launched the event. The event is going to be amazing. We have got a team of 75 people now. I think when Beth and Martin and myself, and my business partners Aaron and Rich first launched this event, we were always dreamt of it being a huge event and a massive success for the hospices. But I think if we're honest, we probably thought we'd maybe get between 30 and 40 people, hopefully 40. We always would have loved 75, and look where we are now. We've got 75 people, which is brilliant, and it's going to raise loads of money for two amazing hospices. So TFA in my cycle, we are delighted to be working with you all to make this an absolute success and a real joy. You're going to have a fantastic time on this trip. This evening, we thought we'd get everyone together. I know I've met quite a few of you, and we've talked about this event at the info evening, if you're able to make that, in a couple of the hospice get-togethers. So we don't want to repeat everything again, but I'm mindful that there's a few new people. So what I thought we'd do is, we've got Aaron and Rich from My Cycle also on the call. So we wanted everyone to meet the rest of the My Cycle team. We wanted to talk through the route. There's been a few changes and people might have some questions. I think with any event this size, there's an element of meeting the needs of the group and the challenge. And so we've had to make a few changes, and Aaron will talk about that a bit later, and also talk about training. We've got 4 months to go, still a really decent amount of time to train for this challenge, and so we've got Rich on the call who will talk us through that. I've got also some key reminders for people of things that they need to be doing right now. I think Beth and Martin, who's joining the call, Martin certainly got some reminders. And then there'll be an opportunity for you to ask any questions about the challenge. And I know everyone is really excited, as we are, about the challenge, but it can be a bit daunting. People might have some questions that they aren't answering. And if we don't get time tonight, we are here, the My Cycle team are here all the time to answer questions and support you. So if we don't answer questions tonight, we can pick up the phone tomorrow or coming weeks, and you can get the support you need. So just want you to feel reassured that we are here to help you. Yeah. So without further ado, I just wanted to introduce not only myself, but the rest of the team. I don't know whether Aaron and Rich, you can just quickly say a hello so you come up on the screen.
Hi guys. Hello everyone.
So you'll notice that they are in a vehicle at the moment. Aaron and Rich are currently somewhere between Brussels and Luxembourg, I think.
That's right.
Maybe on the way to Paris. They are doing a recce of one of our rides in a few weeks' time. So this is the real authentic experience. This is what we do. Aaron is operations director. He is expert recce route developer, and he goes out and makes these routes really fantastic for our challenges. So that's one of the things that they're doing at the moment for another one of our rides. Rich, we've got Rich. Can you raise your hand? Say hi. Rich is our expert bike person. What Rich doesn't know about bikes is not worth knowing. In fact, I'm not even sure he doesn't know anything about bikes. He knows everything about bikes. So he runs our bike centre. I know a few of you have been in touch about renting bikes. If you've got any issues with your bikes, then he is the person to speak to. But also he is really knowledgeable about talking about training a bit later. So I think if everyone's okay, we will move on to talk a bit about the route. And Aaron, you're going to talk through the 3 days. I was thinking of sharing the Strava routes on the screen as you're speaking.
It's 4 days, isn't it?
It is 4 days. Sorry.
I was like, oh, right. I suddenly I thought, do I need to go back to the drawing board? Yeah. So, hello everyone. Lovely to meet you all. Apologies, I couldn't be in the UK where it's raining by the sounds of it. My wife also lives in Tunbridge Wells with me and my family, so I've heard a lot about how much rain is coming through. So Rebecca mentioned about the route. I'll just say one thing about the route. Over the course of the preparation period, routes always do change, sometimes slightly, sometimes quite considerably, and these are down to a number of reasons. One of the things that the reasons it does change is because we recce the route and suddenly part of the route has been blocked. There are road repairs, extensive repairs, long-term repairs, or there are actual changes in the way that the traffic flows are happening. All of our routes, though, are based on one thing and one thing only, which is the center of every route that we do, and that's safety. Another reason why routes do often change is because of the size of the group, and we have to change routes partly because we know the volume of cyclists that we're now going to have riding on roads, riding on cycle paths, riding across junctions. I did my first London to Paris in 2006. I've ridden that route many, many times. I've ridden the London-Amsterdam route many, many times. And it really does make a difference, the size, when a group size changes from, I'd say, approximately 30 to 35 up to what we've got, considerably, with a number of different things. But even just the weight of cyclists that we need to have at certain junctions, when you've got 20 bikes going across a junction and you've got a traffic red light, suddenly with the additional traffic, we have to change routes to make it safe, because it does put a lot of pressure, not only on the group, the guides, but also to ensure that everyone is kept safe. One other thing that we like to introduce into routes as well is not just this is head down, cycle in the most direct route and get there. We want this to be an experience for you. We want this to be something that you will remember, something that will make you stop while you're cycling, to take photos of yourself, of the countryside, the scenery, but also for yourself and your friends to have moments where you look back and go, oh yeah, that's where we were there. But we also introduce some great places that you will get to visit as well, which may not be areas that you would necessarily visit. So we kind of highlight a different side of the countries we go to that really bring the culture and the feel of it all. But ultimately, we feed that back into kind of all of the route development that myself and Rich do, and the recce's that we do. And we ultimately, it always boils back down to, is every left and right turn safe? We do a risk assessment. We ride the route approximately 4 to 6 times, between 4 and 6 times. We do a risk assessment for every single turn. So from leaving the hospice, every left, every right, every straight junction we do a risk assessment, and we have a risk on that, to make sure that we, at any point in time, if we have to change something, or if we get concerned about something, we've got all of that detail available to us. To give you a bit more detail of the route now, if you haven't had a chance to look at the website, it's no problem. The route is broken down into distance, elevation, and then a map. We will put up a GPX file. For those of you who are riding with bike computers, you'll know what I'm talking about. For those of you who aren't, don't worry, you don't need to have this file, and you don't need to have a bike computer. We have guides, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, who will help you or will guide you which direction to go. But GPX files, they will usually go up a week before the event. And the reason that is, we do our final recce usually 2 weeks to 10 days before, because that's when the local councils put up signs saying, in 2 weeks' time, this road's going to be closed, etc., etc. So that's where, if we have to, we can make some final adjustments, which might be across any of the 4 days. So they will appear to the right of where it says route map on that image, as you can see there. So day one, we leave from Eastbourne. We will hug the coast to Hastings, and then we will go slightly more inland as you kind of go around the villages southeast of Ashford, and then come back down towards Sandgate, Hythe, and then up over Capel-le-Fern, and then down into Dover to catch the 6 o'clock Dunkirk ferry. We have to be there at 4 o'clock. With a group this size now, we will have to be escorted around the port. Any groups over the number of 50 cyclists, we will have an escort around the port. So we have to be there. You know, normally we've got a 15-minute window, you know, if we get there at 4:15, if we're a smaller group. But this group, we have to be there because our escort will move us usually a couple of minutes after 4, but they will meet me there at 4 o'clock, and then I will lead you with their escort around the port. Now, people might panic and think, oh, God, you know, we have planned these routes, we've planned stops, we have guides. You can see there's 2 big hills there, Fairlight and Capel-le-Fern, or, you know, the one up from Folkestone through to Dover. These are all manageable hills, regardless of what cycling ability you have, and it's safe for you if at any point you need to maybe get off the bike and just walk for a little bit. That's perfectly fine, and our guides will walk with you when you decide, if you decide to do that. But it's perfectly manageable. The time is perfectly manageable. We don't go at a pace where, you know, we're chivying people along. We go at a pace that is safe. We go at comfortable. But the one thing that I always say to everyone, and, you know, when we're briefing, remember, this is a group ride. So, you know, for the strong riders, you know, I remind you at all times, this is a group ride. So there will be opportunities where you might be able to ride a bit quicker, but there won't be opportunities where we restrict you and we ride at a certain pace because that's what's safe. But that's day 1, and then on we have the ferry over to Dunkirk, and then we get a little 1-2 kilometer ride to the hotel where we stay overnight. Day 2, we go from Dunkirk to a place called Rennes. This is our biggest day. This is our longest day. It's a long, tough day, but as you'll notice, there is very, very little elevation. We go through the centre of Bruges. We pass through some beautiful cities that many of you may not have been to, many of you may have been to, but Vern, for example, is one. If you haven't been there, trust me, when you arrive in Vern for our stop, you will take your breath away for the architecture of the centre, the main square. But again, we want to take you to places like that just so we can kind of give you a flavour of Belgium, where, you know, you may not have experienced, but some of you may have. And then we go on to Bruges, through the centre of Bruges, and then out to a place called Breskens. Catch a small ferry over to Vlissingen, and then we are over the small, very popular Dutch island. We'll stop over in Rennes. You'll see that the distance, 171 kilometres, you know, that's just over 100 miles. It is a long day, but again, we break it down. That's manageable for everyone. It's an early start, and you know, we have all the support that you need. So if anybody's thinking that just seems like a ridiculous distance and I'm not sure I can do that, trust me, I remember when I first started cycling and someone said the same to me, but I rode with one of their guides for a team, and they just showed me how to pace myself throughout the day. And now I do a 100-mile ride at least once a year, which I call, that's my MOT. Everyone will be fine, and if you trust us and trust our team, you'll be absolutely fine. I'll come on to a little bit about some tips, and Rich will tell you a little bit more about that after that. And then day 3, we leave Rennes and we head towards a place called Vlaardingen, which is just outside Rotterdam. We will be going past the UNESCO World Heritage Site, Kinderdijk. If you haven't been there, it is absolutely breathtaking. A very traditional, historical, but tourist site that is located over on the east side of the Netherlands. I went there with my family a few years ago, and I was just blown away by it. And it was one of the things, when I saw that, I thought we have to include this in one of our rides because it is absolutely beautiful. So we will go there, and then we will end up in Vlaardingen, where we will stop for the evening. And then you will have completed 3 days. You know, this is a considerably shorter day, but again, it's not that we're going to do this a lot quicker, or there's going to be different. We will continue with the pace that we have and making sure that the pace is safe. From Kinderdijk through Rotterdam. Rotterdam is very, very busy, and I can imagine we'll be there at a time where there's a lot of people who are cycling home from work. So there will be a lot of cycle traffic. You'll notice, if anybody's cycled around Dutch cities, you'll notice there's a lot of cycle traffic. So we do break you down into various different groups and stuff like that, but I can tell you a little bit more about that afterwards. And then finally, day 4, we will leave Vlaardingen and then we will head towards Amsterdam. It's a considerably shorter day, but often with day 4, we want you to be able to enjoy that last day. Maybe have a slightly later start. Often there's a few early celebrations that might happen on the eve of day 3, but we ask you to try and hold on for the eve of day 4. But you can see there it's just over 50 miles. And as we kind of literally come through the centre of through Holland, and then eventually we arrive in Amsterdam for the completion of our journey, and that's it really. These distances, if I'd be honest with you, will probably change at best, I would say, by maybe 5%, and I even think that's more than I think they will slightly change. And that's, like I said, they will only change now if roads are blocked. We hear about roadworks, or we found out about a football event that was happening in Amsterdam on a ride previously, so we had to slightly change that ride. We have a certain number of rules when we travel over a railway line or a tram track. We ask that you get off your bike and walk over it. You're welcome if you want to cycle over it, and I'm sure many of you have been on rides to cycle it, but from a safety point of view, we do. We can't force you to do that, but we ask you to do that, just because sometimes these can be very, very slippery, and in September, the weather can be a bit unpredictable, and the slightest little bit of rain or dew can often make these very slippery, and you don't want to be coming off early in the morning, or when you're crossing one of those. With regards to the groups, I did mention that briefly. We have guides, and these are individuals who will support and ride with you. They will have the route. They will show you which way to go. They will marshal junctions. They will advise as you're riding, any hazards that are coming up, and they will support you when you might have any instance where you need to stop, get a puncture, etc., etc., etc. For each group, we break. So for the large group, all of us as a group, we'll break you down into subgroups, and then each subgroup will have a number of guides that will support them and ride with them. If at any point in time someone has a puncture and the group continues, no one gets left alone. We don't have a policy where no lone riders. A guide will ride with you, or the group will stop and wait till the situation has been rectified and then continue with you. So that's a whistle stop tour, a whistle stop kind of bit about routes, our route, and our guide really. And I'll just kind of swivel it round to Rich, who's going to tell you a little bit about training, hydration, etc., and then back to you, Rebecca, for what's next.
Well, I think Beth's got a question. If we can do a question right now.
Yeah, hello. Hi,
Hi, Aaron, how are you?
Yeah.
What I was going to say is, I wonder if people have got questions now about the route and any of that stuff before we go into the more technical bike stuff. Just so people don't forget what they might want to ask.
Yeah, happy to do that.
All right. Thank you.
Who would like to? Lynn, I can see your finger.
Yeah, I'm just interested in Kinderdijk. I was there about a month ago. Are we just riding through it? Because they've now changed it, haven't they? You can't go. You have to pay an entrance to go in any of the windmills as a total thing. Are we just literally riding through to see it as we go, or are we stopping there for a time?
So when you arrive at Kinderdijk, you're absolutely right about having to pay. There is a on the cycle path, which is on the raised on the left hand side of the
the cycle path goes through it, doesn't it?
And there are viewings kind of like laybys that we can pull into. So we will pull into one of those viewing laybys. There are 2 windmills that you can walk to within 50 yards of, but you don't pay with, and that's the two by the bottom side of Kinderdijk. We'll probably stop there if people want to wander and have some photos, but I think from the viewing laybys, you still get an amazing view of.
You do. I just wanted to double check that it wasn't like going to be a stop for, like a stop for an hour and a half where people, because you can't go in the windmills anymore. You can see the two windmills, and there are loads of places that you can enjoy it because the park goes through it, doesn't it? But we're not physically going to be spending ages there. Yeah, that's fine.
We have found a delightful Dutch bakery that does these very, very delicious Dutch kind of treats. So we've used them before. So we've kind of lined them up basically. So when we stop, we'll have a little bit of a stop, which will almost be a bit of like a Dutch afternoon tea kind of thing with some Dutch treats that you can all have. But again, yes, it will be 15-20 minutes. Allow the group to catch up. Allow the group to absorb the Kinderdijk. And then we'll be on our merry way.
Any other questions?
Yeah, can I ask one? How many people do you put in a subgroup, and how do you allocate the subgroups? Is it done by people you know, or is it done by speed?
No, absolutely. It's not done by speed. So with a subgroup, with a group of around 75, you'll be looking in the region of 10, 11 riders. And then you will have guides who will manage those. When we have the subgroups, we have them based on people that you know, people you've ridden with, people you want to ride with. And then you'll get a mixture of groups. There may be certain points during the 4 days where there is a subgroup that just by chance is a bit quicker, and they may have certain sections where we'll go, look, if you want to ride a bit quicker in this section, you can. If someone else from another group would like to join that group, you're more than welcome. So we kind of keep that bit flexible for people, but no, we don't make any groups based on speed.
Okay, lovely. Can I ask a second question? Sorry. And
No.
when you were showing the maps, it says in the thingy like 3 hours, 6 hours. One of them was 7 hours. No, 6 hours. And I thought that's quite a lot for 100 miles. And I just wondered what those figures were like. Is there a point where, if someone's a little bit of a slower rider, is there a point where they could just count? Obviously, I know on the, the last day and the first day, you've got a ferry to catch, so you've got to, you've got to be there at a certain time. But, if you're a little bit slower on the second day, is there like a point where you're going to say, right, that's it, you can't cycle anymore, you need to get in the van?
The only things that would stop us from allowing you to continue to ride, there's 3 key things, and that is injury, advice from one of our professionals, or external factors that we can't control, and things like traffic, weather, if there's things like that cause delay, and suddenly then it starts getting dark, that will be a reason why we would do that. But no, if you are just someone who is going at your own pace, a guide will ride with you, I will often ride with you, and if it's safe for you to ride and you're happy to continue, then yeah, there'll be no reason. The only reason you'll go in the van, not based on one of those 3 things I've said, is because you've chosen to go in the van. You may get offered the opportunity, like, how are you feeling? Okay, do you want to continue, or would you like to do this section in the van, or would you like to, maybe call it a day there? You've done a good distance. If you say, no, I feel fine, I want to continue, and we have no concerns or about anything, we'll allow you to continue. There's no reason why we wouldn't.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions about the route?
Yeah, I've just got one, probably again about the route, the groups. Do we have to ride in groups?
So I don't really understand the question. As opposed to
riding like 2s or 3s.
Oh, right. So when you're riding in a subgroup, what usually will happen is that you won't ride in a bunch of like 11, 12 riders together. They will split up to, there'll be subgroups, but it's almost difficult to explain of how, and that's what we have the guide for.
Riding in a group of 10 or 11 people that you don't know is incredibly dangerous. So no, that's good.
Any more questions?
Can I just say thank you very much for all this amazing support. we're obviously in very, very good hands. And it's great to know all these recces are going on. You know all about the bikes and the routes and alternatives, and it's absolutely brilliant to hear. So thank you so much for all this. Being an event organizer like this, the risks involved just seem to be enormous, but you've obviously got it sorted. So I just want to say thank you very much for giving so much confidence to everybody as part of this group. And with 75 people now part of this group, it's quite an undertaking, but I feel I'm really in fantastic hands, and the hospices are in good hands as well. So I just want to say thank you very much indeed. Cheers.
Brilliant. Thank you, Martin.
Thanks, Martin.
Someone raised a hand there, I saw. Vic.
Well,
Oh,
Vic,
you're on mute.
Right, can you hear me now?
Go for it, Vic.
We could hear you, Vic. Have you gone quiet again? Oh, you've muted yourself.
Can you unmute him, Rebecca?
I'm trying to, but I can't.
Vic, we can't hear you. We can't hear you, Vic.
I can't. I'm not allowed to unmute. So Vic, you're gonna have to do it yourself. Still can't hear you, Vic.
Is that working?
Oh, that's better.
Yeah.
Ah, good. My question was for Martin. Have you decided to join us, Martin?
I wish I could. I just don't have the time, unfortunately.
I
know that sounds
remember talking
ridiculous.
about this.
I'd love to, but no, I'm sorry, I can't. Sorry.
Okay.
We'll have a spare bike, and Martin will join for some of it, won't you, Martin?
Sounds like I don't have a choice in the matter. I'll be there.
Good.
So I'll pass on to Rich. I mean, if any other route questions do come to mind, then by all means, we can still ask them afterwards. But let me pass on to Rich, who's going to tell you a little bit more. Well, I'll let him tell you what he's going to tell you.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, really good to see so many of you on the call. That's ace. A couple of things from me then. First one is training. So as with any challenge of this nature and this magnitude, there is challenge is an appropriate word. So some of you might be incredibly accomplished in your cycling. Some of you might not be. Any of the above is completely fine. Couple of things though. With the training, you'll find on our website there is actually a training plan available, and what this does is it breaks down training load by week, and it gets closer and closer to the event date. So it's just a really, really handy little document that can just kind of help to break things up and just sort of see where you're at any given point in the lead up to the challenge. So at this current point, we're 17 weeks out. Our plan is a 20-week plan. So if you do go on and you do see it, oh, nice one. Thanks, Rebecca. So at the moment we'll be, because we're 17 weeks to go, we're in the top bracket, which is week 1 to 4. Essentially, a good guide at the moment to kind of put yourself in and go out, like try and get some time. At this point, you're looking at between 2 and 3 runs a week, anywhere between 8 and 10 miles. This is incredibly subjective. It's just a good guide from us. There's 3 main things with regards to your training that I will say. The first one is start early. The second one is start small. And the third one is really do try and enjoy it, because it is, the more that you do it, the more enjoyment, hopefully, especially at this time of year where you've got the summer. It is just nice to be out on the bike, and it is just nice to be exercising. In terms of the start now, I've got no doubt in my mind that everybody will be able to complete this challenge. The benefit that you'll get in terms of your training by starting now is you'll give yourself a really good fitness foundation, and your enjoyment of your 4 days of riding will massively increase. The more training, the more disciplined you can be, and the more bike time, the more fitness time, the more gym time, or whatever it is that you're taking part in at the moment, the more time that you can put in now will just maximize your enjoyment of the challenge. Starting small, you can see in terms of our training program that we do start with smaller rides, start with smaller workouts. As your foundation fitness increases, you'll notice that the training load gets a little bit more, your training frequency increase as well. The more that you get into the training program, we do try and encourage back-to-back rides, i.e. One day followed by another day. It kind of gets your body familiar with the kind of what it would feel like to do multiple days in the saddle. And other than the enjoy it bit, that is basically training. It's a really good guide to follow. We've had it before. A couple of people, I do understand that life gets in the way. I do understand that people are very busy. We've had a couple of questions that have come over from some of our other clients about, Rich, I just haven't got the time. Typically, endurance training is very, very load heavy in terms of the duration of time that you need to put into your training. That is endurance training, but don't worry. There are definitely things that you can do if you need slightly more compact exercises, slightly more compact workouts. If anybody wants a little bit of advice on that, do feel free to get in touch. But there are definitely ways that don't eat into massive hours in your day that will just really, really help get your body ready for the challenge. Another really important thing is now is good, but particularly the further into the summer that we get, the more bike time, the more saddle time, the more time on the bike that you can give, the more comfortable you will be. If you're a runner and you're undertaking this challenge, brilliant, but do not leave it till the Monday before to jump on a bike for the first time, because you will find day one quite uncomfortable, day two quite uncomfortable, and day three probably really uncomfortable. So do just try and familiarize yourself and your body with what it feels like to spend time in the saddle. It will just pay dividends throughout the course of your training. And that's it from me in terms of that. Aaron, do you have anything more to add on the guide?
No, I mean, the only thing I was just going to say, one thing I always just say is one of the most important things, for me, and being someone who's not an elite cyclist, not even close, social cyclist all my life. I remember being given a piece of advice about the most important thing that will get you there at the end of the day, and that's hydration and fueling. And it's sometimes hard when you're riding to force yourself to eat, and drink and stuff like that. But that's the thing that towards the end of the day, when you're starting to feel a bit tired or feeling dehydrated or feeling like, I'm not sure I can carry on, it will be down to the fact that not how strong you are as a cyclist, but how well you've hydrated or fueled during the day. So do get used to doing that when you're training as well.
That's a really good point, actually. So obviously when you're taking part in our ride, you are looked after by not just the guides and the directing staff, but we also have a very, very good medical team. You will be monitored throughout the course of your riding. Advice will be given. There will be plenty of stops where you can refuel in terms of, sorry, I've got the sun directly, where you can refuel in terms of liquids and in terms of food as well. So it's really important to do that. Use the summer and the time on your bike to find out what kind of fueling works for you. So one of the things that you don't want to do is when you, for example, start day one or day two, and your idea of I've got to keep fueling is to take on a lot of those energy gels. We typically don't provide those, but some people like to bring their own stuff. If you haven't used that kind of stuff in the lead up to your challenge and you suddenly smash out the gels for 2, 3 or 4 days, it can play havoc with your stomach. Your body just isn't used to doing it. So find things, find snacks, find drinks, find foods. It can be very, very basic things. It can be, handful of peanuts, some jam sandwiches, whatever that is. Find some stuff that works for you and take that moving forwards into your riding come the challenge, because that will really, really help you out. That familiarity of challenge riding compared to your build up of training and exercise will really, really help. If there's any questions on any of that, 2 things. The first thing, by all means, feel free to ask me now. Second thing is always just drop me an email if you want to. Email, call, whatever, and I'll be happy to have a chat or send you some stuff over.
There'll also be a great opportunity to ask questions to the team on our training ride, which I hope you've all got the information about on Wednesday, the 5th of June at 6 o'clock. We're going to be meeting at Pevensey Castle to do a leisurely ride, but it'll be a great opportunity to meet some of the team and ask questions about training and riding and bike setup, etc. So I hope you can join us then. If not, we will be organising more over the course of the next few months. So we hope you'll get an opportunity. And if you fancy joining us up in Richmond Park, we'll be there. I know it's a bit more of a schlep for you, but we'll be there on the 9th of June between 11 and 1 o'clock doing laps of Richmond Park, so you can join for as long or as little as you like. So I'll put all this information in an email following this call, so you've got it, and so that everybody else who hasn't been able to join the call has got it too. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions about training, please put your hand up. Kate, you've raised your hand. Or you just need to, you're on mute, Kate. Still on mute, I'm afraid.
There's a red button at the bottom should have like a red mic. If you unclick that.
That better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, me and tech. Sorry, I know you've gone over it a little bit. It's just to do about the groups, the subgroups and the subgroups. There's a group of us there's quite a group of us that cycle regularly together anyway. So when we leave to go on the trip, will we be able to sort of stay in those groups? And as long as we sort of following the route, we can sort of do our own thing and get to the next check kind of thing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you get it.
So so Kate, there's a couple of things with that. The first thing is the expectation from the guide team and the director team is that we don't ever like to have groups of riders, even if they've got the route themselves. We don't ever like to have groups of riders that aren't riding without a guide for any lengthy duration of time. It means that we can't necessarily keep tabs on where the groups are. It means that if anything does need to change or does need to happen or something needs to be called in, i.e. a mechanic or a medic, we're just not there to do that. So on the whole, it's not something that we like to do. There are going to be times throughout the 4 days where we're quite, not necessarily on the individuals in the groups, but the size of the groups we are going to be quite strict on. Like Aaron said, safety's our top number. So there are going to be times where we really have to sort of pull it in and just be like, right, this is how many people we're going to have. Right, you, and you're going to ride there just for a short time, whether it's to get across a junction or a busy section of town or whatever it is. Other times we're going to be far more relaxed on who's in what group and how many of you are in another group. So there's going to be plenty of time. You'll probably find naturally that the groups kind of split. You might find that it's not as strict and regimented as I think some people are thinking that it is, but there are just
it's sounding that at the moment it's sounding quite regimented, and I know it's a huge thing you're organizing. I just want to know that, you know, we all kind of cycle at our own paces, and I find it difficult to cycle slower. If someone says, right, you've got to, you know, you're going, yeah, it's just, there is obviously a bit more flexibility there.
Absolutely fine. I promise you, it's not our first rodeo. We've
Appreciate that.
We've had lots of people. Your group is a big group, but we have had much bigger. You'll find that the first day, maybe the first half of the first day, is a very interesting bit where people kind of find their feet. They find where they sit within a group or where they sit within terms of speed. But after the first half of day one, everything just feels very natural. It's not very regimented. It's not very strict. Like I said, there are going to be times where we just, for safety reasons, have to pull it in. And it might be a case of when we're at a stop, it might literally be as simple as who is ready to go at that specific time. And if those 6 people are ready to go, right, there's your guide, off you go. It's going to be 5 kilometers where you're just going to have to ride with this guide. After that, you might find that group catches another group up, and that group of 5 becomes a group of 6 or 7 or 8. And there's a much more natural flow about it. So I promise you, don't worry about it. But of course you can ride with people that you're used to riding with. That is not a problem at all. Try and not think of it in terms of one big group, one subgroup, one subgroup. Try and not think of it in terms of that. It is far more natural than that. Our guides are very, very good at floating between, at picking up where they need to pick up. If a couple of people are trying to ride at a slightly quicker pace because that's naturally the pace that group happens to be moving at, doesn't matter. They'll just get swept up by the next group and they'll just be riding with them. It's very, very fluid.
Lovely, thank you.
All right.
Lynn, have you got?
Yeah, I just want to pick up the other end, because Kate and I did Paris, and we were at different ends of the ride. So I think that hopefully
very different ends,
very, very different ends of the ride, and we were, and I'm very conscious and very concerned that I wouldn't want people like Kate and Sarah and those that actually, you know, are really good and speed along, and I'm plodded along, really pleased if I'm doing 11 miles an hour, and they're, you know, I would be very concerned that I was in a group. Yeah, I'd love to ride with Kate, but reality is I won't be riding with Kate because of the different speed that we do it. And so I would be concerned if I was feeling, whatever the intention, that I was feeling that people were having to be slow because I am a slower rider. So just to say,
honestly, I do sympathize with that mindset, Lynn. I'll be completely honest. You are not the only one that has had that in any of our rides over the years. What you often find, though, is you don't need to worry about putting that kind of pressure on yourself. What we often find is it's not a race. It's not a time trial from point A to point B. It's a challenge. It's a ride. It's a journey. It's exciting. It's a flipping good laugh. I'll be honest. They're brilliant. But
yeah, I realise that, and I mean that's certainly what we got from Eastbourne to Paris. But I'm also very conscious that Sam and I were, you know, we were the sweeper with the guide, but we did it.
Yeah.
But we were the sweep. You know, we were the ones that were sweeping the road after everyone had gone through about an hour and a half before. And I just wouldn't want, you know, I'm just. And it was wonderful because they were waiting for us when we got to each of the points. But I wouldn't want to be feeling that the likes of Kate and those would have to be slower because I am naturally a slow rider. That's all.
Lynn, that won't happen. You know, you've been on one of these rides before. It's worked really, really well for you. The fact that you've ridden at your pace, you've caught, but you feel included in the group. That's what will happen here. Beth, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add on to that I just think, as much as possible, try not to get too emotionally involved and think about everybody else's feelings in this. And I think just understand that we're me, these guys, Martin, Sarah, the crew that is going, we'll be the ones that are supporting you emotionally and mentally and physically. Well, not physically, but you know, we'll get you through this. So don't have to think too much about letting other team members down, because that's not going to happen. I haven't cycled myself before, but obviously I've done the Sahara Trek with you, Lynn, as well. And there was people that sped off and did it super fast each day, and there was people that were behind, and I don't think that anyone at the front ever felt like annoyed by the people at the back. So I can only assume that would be the same case with everybody riding as well.
100%. Sweet.
Absolutely. Thanks, Beth, for adding that. We do adapt to meet the needs of the team, and it's everyone's individual ride, and we'll make sure that you get the most enjoyment out of it that way. Has anyone got any other questions about training, the ride? Kevin.
Great call, by the way. Just a small, insignificant little detail. You happen to casually mention there's a second ferry. Is that a big logistics thing, or is it just sort of you turn up and get on and a few go at a time?
Exactly that. It's just like a bus service. Whenever you turn up, there's one every 30 minutes. It just goes across the estuary. It's a lunch stop. So when you arrive, you'll grab some lunch and get on the ferry, or you'll have some lunch waiting for the ferry. But
right.
Yeah.
Right. So as you were talking about the different groups and things, there's not like a hard deadline. They can all just, as you get a bunch, they'll just get on the next one, and then you'll all just meet up.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes across the estuary every 30 minutes from 6 in the morning till 10 at night, and you just catch the one that's closest to when you arrive and you're ready. And if you arrive and you're ready, or you arrive and you're like, I just want to sit here for a bit, you'll get the next one with the next group.
Like a break by the dock. Sounds like a
good idea. Exactly. You cycle your bike onto it. It's a bike and scooter ferry only, and a foot passenger ferry. So that's it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize. What do cars do?
They have to drive the long way round. There's a road that goes all the way around, and they have to drive. So our vehicles will be racing around to try and get to the other side. So
it used to be a car ferry back in the 70s.
Right.
And 80s. I've done it lots of times with the car, but now they built a new motorway, so they've built a nice new motorway, so it makes it easier.
GPS will all end up at the right place. We'll just take a slightly different route. Good, I like it.
Emily, have you got a question?
Yeah, just very quickly. It's not really very important at all. But I was just wondering, at the hotel stays overnight, when we did London to Paris, you had to be in. You had to share a room with someone. So Lynn and I had a lovely time sharing. But I was just wondering whether that's the same case this time, and how the rooms are kind of arranged, pretty much.
Yeah, so everyone has got a shared room that comes with the challenge package. But I've sent emails out about a rider information form to most people. I think some of the newer people probably haven't seen the link to the rider information form, but I will send it in an email post this call. But as you fill in the rider information form, it gives you opportunity to basically tailor the trip to your specific needs and requirements. Not only does it go through your dietary requirements and your medical information, but you'll have an opportunity to say whether you want a shared room or whether you'd like to spend a bit more money and have a single room. And that's based on availability, but there is the option there. You can also choose who you might want to, if you know somebody on the ride that you'd like to share with, you're able to put their name so you can share a room with that person. So again, following this is a nice actual reminder for the rider information form, because we've got about half of them in, but we still need the other half to fill the rider information form. So thanks for that, Emily. I will send the link again by email, and if people can fill them in as soon as possible, that will really help us with the event planning and making sure that everyone's got what they need.
I hate to tell you this, Emily, but I actually put your name down.
Oh my gosh, no, Lynn, that's brilliant. I'm so okay, perfect, sorted. Can't wait. Absolutely.
Oh, thank goodness you said that.
So much fun.
Good question, Rachel.
Well, we've got a few questions that have come up on the chat. You will have seen somebody asked about the hotel on the last night. And we have we've had a few hotels booked over the months, and as the group has increased in size, we have changed the hotel because we want everyone to stay together. We can't stress enough how much of a team activity this is, and we want to stay together rather than putting you in different hotels. So we have finalised the hotel, big enough to fit us all in, and that's the Ibis City West. I've put a link in the chat, but I will also put it in an email following this call, so you've got all that. And I know friends and family are looking to stay. They can also join us for the final meal. So we'll be asking you whether you need us to book an extra place for the celebration meal on the final night. So we'll come to you with that. Someone asked if there's a Strava group. I don't believe anyone's set one up yet, but we can do that, so everyone can join. So again, I'll send the details through. And the last question was about dinner in the evenings, to ensure we're nicely fueled. I presume on day 2 it'll be pretty late meal, so how might this be managed? So on day 2, Day one, we eat on the ferry as we're crossing over to Dunkirk. And on day two, we get to the hotel and there's a buffet meal at the hotel. So you literally arrive and you can eat straight away pretty much, depending on what time you arrive, or you can freshen up in your room and get down for dinner. But there will be food there. Same again on day three, we're just confirming that, but there'll be a buffet at the hotel, and then we'll go out for a meal in Amsterdam to celebrate the end of the challenge on the fourth night. That'll be a fantastic night. Next question was what medical staff are coming. So we have a couple of medical staff coming. We will have a medical vehicle, a blue light medical vehicle with us with 2 first aid responders in it, and in another vehicle so they can position themselves along the route, and they will be there. And I think, you know, hopefully we won't have to use them, and actually we'd be very pleased if we don't, but they are there to support you all. So if you've got any questions, do use them and ask for their support and help.
And our guide team are all first aid trained.
Stuart's hoping to stay a few extra days in Amsterdam. Is there any costings for that? I can help you with that, Stuart. If you want to drop me an email, I can look at that, extending your stay in the hotel, and also the costs related to delaying your Eurostar, which is possible. Again, in the rider information form, you can put all that information in. If you want to get a different Eurostar home, we can arrange that for you. Additional costs may apply depending on the time and time and date. I think that sort of covers all of my key reminders. Has anyone else got any questions? Martin?
Yeah, can I just remind everybody about letting us know regarding a coach, if you want to come back on a coach from London. So let us know about that. We have had some response, but yes, please confirm if you need a lift back, or maybe you are staying in London or something like that afterwards. But we can lay on a coach to actually get everybody back down from London to Eastbourne and Hastings, okay? Also, reminder about passports. Make sure your passports are going to be valid for the duration. And also, give us your sizes for the cycle jerseys, please, so we can get those on order. And the last thing is, remember your bells. Everybody needs bells to be able to ride in Amsterdam. So they're 4 things that I just want to highlight. But I want to say thank you, everyone who's joined us this evening. And I'm sure there are going to be questions afterwards, but the MyCycle team are happy to respond at any point. Not any point, but yeah, in good time. But thank you very much, Rich, Rebecca, Aaron, thank you very much indeed for your time this evening. Cheers.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
Thanks, Martin. I've also just put the WhatsApp group chat link in the chat. If I said WhatsApp and group and chat enough, I don't know. If you could join it, that'd be great. It's a really useful and easy way for us to communicate about the challenge through WhatsApp. We're finding more and more people use that rather than emails. So if you can join it, that would be great. Again, I'll pop it in an email to everyone so you can join that way as well. Beth, you had some reminders, I think.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. So Martin just mentioned about the coach and cycle jerseys. So that hasn't been spoken about with St Wilfrid's riders yet. So I was going to say that this evening. So tomorrow I'll be sending out an email just to kind of wrap up some points from today's call. And one of them, and 2 questions will be in there. One will be getting your cycle jersey sizes, and the other one will be confirming if you need to be part of the coach back. So you'll look out for that email from me tomorrow. There was another little reminder, again, I'll put this in the email tomorrow, but for our riders, if you're selling raffle tickets for the bike raffle, could you try and make sure they get the stubs and cash gets to us on Monday, the 3rd of May, I think it is, because we have a lot of processing to do admin-wise to get those tickets on the database before we pull the raffle on the 7th. Again, this will be in an email tomorrow as well. But just wanted to remind those that are on the call. And yeah, so thank you very much to Rebecca, Aaron and Rich for this evening's call. I think it was really informative, and hopefully everyone else has found it informative. Yeah, I'm really excited to support you guys on this trip, and excited that we're going to raise £75,000 between the two hospitals. So thank you very much. And the one last thing to say is that I have cycled across a tram track in Amsterdam and fallen in it. So definitely get off your bikes on tram tracks in the cities. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth. Thank you everyone for joining the call tonight. We are really excited to be going on this journey with you. We are here to support, so please don't hesitate to get in touch should you need anything with me, Aaron or Rich, and of course Beth and Martin. And we'll look forward to seeing you over the coming months. Hopefully you can make one of the training rides, and yeah, we'll be in touch. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Bye.